Come after school when we make that one. You can.
Is it on now?
Yes, it's on. Notes 10 dash. Is it 4? I believe 10 dash 4. Okay, it says to solve by factoring. So we had questions like this last night, and we used the quadratic formula to solve to get what x was, and we got 2 answers. Today we're going to solve this a shorter way using skills from the beginning of the chapter. Okay, the skills are this. We're going to make a T-chart. So we're going back to the skill of factoring this. So it says solve by factoring in the notes. And what do they mean? They want to know what x equals. What does x equal to get this equation equal to 0? Okay, so we're going to solve by factoring to get that answer. So, does anybody recall how to break this up into the parentheses?
Yes.
Okay, Robert, what do I do? Yes, Max, what do I do?
I know what to do. You
All right.
do
All right, let me go with Max because he
No,
ran out of time. Go ahead, Max.
So you look, isn't it 8? No, 20
Negative 20
and then 8.
and an 8. So multiply to equal negative 20 and adds up to 8. So factors of negative 20 that add up to 8. Again, you got to go through your factors. 20 and 1, does that add up to 8? No. 10 and 2, yeah, that could. 5 and 4, that's a 9 and a 1.
So 10 and 2.
Okay, so 10 and 2 makes sense. To get them to add up to, okay, negative 2, good. Okay, now, at this point, okay, you have, this is your factoring, right? It's factored. Xavier, it's factored. Now, this is like last chapter, however, we have equals 0. Okay, now, the quick way to do this is once you have these answers here for this type of question, the answer to x is going to be the opposites of these numbers. So we could go directly to answer here and say x equals, so it's 10 there, so x equals negative 10. It's 2 there, or negative 2 there, so x equals 2, and this is my answer to this equation up here.
Why did you do that a long time ago?
So if we did the quadratic formula, we would get negative 10 and 2. Okay? Or you could come down here, because you are solving by factoring. So we could say x plus 10 equals 0. Some people like to do it this way. Subtract 10 from both sides, x equals negative 10. And here, x minus 2 equals 0. Add 2 to both sides, and you get x equals 2. Okay, now, if we do a check on this, so this is why you only have a few problems for homework tonight, because you're going to check them. So let's check negative 10 and 2, and we're going to check them in the original equation, which is x squared plus 8x minus 20. And does that equal 0 when I put it in? It should. Well, let's see. If you did it right, it should. So negative 10 squared plus 8 times negative 10. Notice I'm using parentheses. Minus 20, does that equal 0? So negative 10 squared is 100. 8 times negative 10 is negative 80. Minus another 20, does that equal 0? And I can see right now that this is going to be negative 100. 100 minus 100 equals 0, and it checks. My answer, negative 10 checks. Yes, Max.
It says x negative 10 equals 0. What? So when you add instead of subtract right there?
Here,
Yeah.
It's x plus 10.
Oh,
Maybe do.
X plus 10. Mhm. Here, we're going to put in the 2. 2 squared plus 8 times 2 minus 20 equals 0 is 4 plus 16 minus 20 equal to 0. And I can see the check's going to work there because I can add that in my head. Yes, Joe?
I thought your original x value was like was positive and negative.
This right here, you mean?
Yeah.
This is just the means to get the answer.
Then why just switch negative?
Because that's the trick. Because when okay, so this is the trick. Okay. Okay, what you're thinking along this line, Joe, to hopefully make a little sense to you, is that okay, this factors to this. Do you agree with that? You do agree that that turns into this, right? Okay, so now what I said, if you don't like this trick here, go here and take this one and set it equal to 0 and get an answer. And take this one, set it equal to 0 and get an answer, and you get your 2 answers. If we do the quadratic formula on this, which I should probably make you do the quadratic formula to check it again, we'll talk about that later, you would get the same answers. And you wouldn't have to make them opposites. They'd automatically come out to be minus 10 and plus 2. Okay, so these answers both check. So your answers are x equals negative 10 or x equals 2. Now, if we really want to bring it together here, what is this a graph of? If we were to graph y equals x squared plus 8x minus 20, if I were to graph that, this here tells me that the graph, first of all, what shape is the graph? It's a happy face parabola. Good. This tells me that the parabola crosses at negative 10 and positive 2. And if I know my axis of symmetry, which I do, it's negative b over 2a, so negative 8 over 2, which is negative 6. My axis is right here, and it's a happy face parabola, and I could put the 6 in and get my vertex, and that's going to give me my parabola very nicely. Okay, so this is what we just did. We found these things are called the roots of the quadratic, or the intercepts, or the x-intercepts. Yes. No. I'm just trying to show you the whole picture here. Okay, so let's try. That's a lot of work. Again, you walk in the room and look at this, you're like, huh? But you can do this. You know how to do this. You have the ability to do this, and you should feel confident about that, or feel a sense of mathematical pride that you can do a question like that. We're gonna try number. No, we're not doing 10. Let's do 14 together, and then we're gonna do one like 19. I'm sorry, you do 14 on your own. See if you can do 14 on your own without any help. Again, we'll give you a little help along the way. I'm going to pause the video for station identification. If you would like to do this, like say you have trouble remembering which one you are to split up, it's going to be the last one. And it has to add up to the middle one. And that's only when when a is 1. Okay? So, factors of 13 that add up to 14, 13 and 1, right? I can go directly to answer x equals, no, negative 13, x equals negative 1. Or I could factor it, x plus 13, x plus 1 equals 0. And then I get x plus 13 equals 0, x equals negative 13, And x plus 1 equals 0. What number plus 1 is 0? X equals negative 1. And it checks there. Okay? Now we're going to do a regular check on the whole question. When we put in a negative 1, does it check? And when we put in a negative 13, does it check? All right, well, negative 13 squared. And again, the importance of parentheses is going to help you on your calculator. Make sure you do the parentheses. Oops. Okay, so this is 169. What's 14 times 13? It would be 13 more than this. Plus 182. Sorry, that's negative. Plus 113. So this 13 and this 13 makes 14 of them, and this is going to happen to 0. Yep, that works. And then the 1 should be a lot easier. Negative 1 squared is 1. 14 times negative 1 is negative 14. Plus 13 equals 0. No, it doesn't. This 1 minus 14 is negative 13. Plus 13 is 0. And that checks. Okay, so this is by factoring. We learned how to do this one. Okay, again, if you did the quadratic formula on this, you would get negative 13 and negative 1. Make sure you mark what your answer is somewhere on your paper. It's negative 13 and negative 1. So this should be somewhere on your paper. Be careful. Question, yes. Okay, 22 on the homework is a little bit different than what we just did. So we're going to do number 19. I'll show you one like 22, which is 19. So you can do the one on the homework. So again, this is where you're at about 50% if you understand how to do this, Joe. So if you took the quiz right now, you get a 50% on it. So you need to finish off the class now. And I understand there's feelings of, wow, I can do this. However, we need the other half of the lesson in order to get this right. Now, there's a couple ways to do this question here. You could use the quadratic formula. You could divide everything by 2 and make your life a lot easier, but we can't do that. I don't want to do that right now. Let's do the long method here. Okay? I'm going to do the long method because there's a 2 out in front of here. Now, and this is where, as a math student, you have to make a decision. You could use the quadratic formula and you'll get the right answer. Or you could do the long method, which is about as long as the quadratic formula, but you're going to make less mistakes doing it the long method way. The best way to do is divide by 2, but I don't think we're at that level right now. So we're going to multiply these two together, and I get what? Negative 128. I make another T-chart, and I put the negative 128 there and the 8 here. Now I need factors of negative 128 that add up to 8. Some people already have it. I would start divide by 2. No, that's going to give me 64. Then I would try 4. Then I would try 6 and 8. Does anybody have the division? What's 8 into 128? Okay, 16 and 8. Okay. And which one has to be negative? The 8. Okay, now here's the difference. You can't go right to your answer here. So don't go to your answer. You can't go to your answer right now. All right? When there's a number out in front here, you can't do this. Don't do this. Don't go right to answer. Why? Because it doesn't work. It only works when there's a 1 out front. Okay, so we have to do the long method. 2t squared plus, instead of 8, we're going to do 16t and negative 8t. again, hopefully you see this now, that this 8t really turns into 16 minus 8t minus 64. We can still put it equal to 0. This breaks up. Take a 2 out. Again, can you stop? We've been ignoring you. So maybe you would stop on your own and figure it out, but you haven't figured it out. Okay, so I take a 2t out of there. Here, I need this to be t plus 8, because I could see it here. So what do I need to take out of here to get this to be 2t plus 8? Well, I need to take out a negative 8, and then it still equals 0. Now, it's just like before. The t plus 8 is one answer, and the 2t minus 8 is another answer. Okay. However, unlike before, we could just get our answer. We're going to set these equal to 0. So that's the next, the extra step. Okay, this is factored. Our factoring is here. It's factored. Now we're going to use that factor to get our answer. What's this one here? T equals what? What plus 8 is 0? Negative 8. This is a little bit more difficult. I mean, it's not that much, but 2t minus 8 equals 0. So add 8 to both sides. Again, there's an easier way to do this, but I don't want to confuse people. T equals 4. So my answers to the original question, if I were to draw this parabola, it would intersect the x-axis or the t-axis at negative 8 and 4. Hold on, I'll back it up so you can see it. Okay, so the answer is t equals negative 8 and t equals 4. You could use the quadratic formula on this. On the quiz or test on Thursday and Friday, you can use the quadratic formula for everything if you want. If you're good, if you're good at it, use it. However, this is a lot easier method than the quadratic formula. If you did the quadratic formula, A would be 2, B would be 8, and C would be negative 64. Okay, then you could do negative B, negative 8, plus or minus the square root of 64 minus 4 times 2, 4ac times negative 64, all over 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Negative 8 plus or minus 64. This is going to be 8 times negative 64, which is, that's 9 64s. 960. What's 9 times 64?
Wait, 8 times
Give me 9 times. Okay.
is 5
Plus another 6, 576, which is a perfect square. What's the square root of 576? 24. So it's 8 plus 24, or negative 8 plus 24, and negative 8 minus 24. Okay, if you do this on your calculator, you get 24 is 16 divided by 4 is 4. That's one answer. And here you get negative 32 divided by 4, which is negative 8. So it checks with the quadratic formula. Okay, so you can do the quadratic formula. I did the quick quadratic formula because I don't make, well, I make mistakes, but I don't make the same mistakes that you make. Okay, I'm going to pause the video and